Four suspects in last week's deadly concert hall attack in Russia appear in court. Israel claims its forces killed more than 100 Hamas fighters at Gaza's main hospital, while the Palestinians say the dead are all civilians. And in South Korea, medical professors say they will submit their resignations in support of striking junior doctors. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Four men accused of staging last Friday's concert hall attack outside Moscow appeared before a court Sunday. A court statement said two of the suspects accepted their guilt in the assault, which killed 137 people and injured 182 others. Their court appearance took place as Russia lowered flags to half-staff for a day of mourning. Tracy Furness has more.
There was a heavy police presence outside Moscow's Basmany District Court, where four men between the ages of 19 and 32 were charged with carrying out the concert hall attack that killed more than 130 people, including 3 children. At the preliminary hearing Sunday, 2 of the suspects pleaded guilty to terrorism charges. All 4 men showed signs of severe beatings with swollen faces, and one barely conscious during the hearing. One of the men appeared in a wheelchair wearing a hospital gown and trousers. The court ordered the men, all of whom are citizens of Tajikistan, to be held in pre-trial custody until May 22nd. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin lit a candle in church for those killed at Crocus City Hall outside Moscow, where the shooting took place Friday night. This came as Putin declared a national day of mourning in Russia. Cultural events were cancelled and flags were lowered to half-staff, while television, entertainment and advertising were suspended. Earlier Sunday, people laid flowers outside the 6,200-seat concert hall, where the 4 armed men massacred concert-goers who were there to see Soviet-era rock group Picnic. 100 people are still in hospital, some in serious condition. This Moscow resident came to give her condolences to those who lost relatives. She said, "I couldn't stay away. Together with other Russians, we came to the scene." And this resident witnessed the scene, saying, "The entire building was in flames. There were firefighters, ambulances and police. There was no panic, but everyone was shocked." Putin said 11 people have been detained, including the 4 gunmen. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack, but Putin has not publicly mentioned the militant group in connection with the attackers, who Putin said were trying to escape to Ukraine. He also said some on the Ukrainian side had been prepared to spirit the gunmen across the border. Ukraine has denied any role in the attack. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The French government is raising its terror alert warning to its highest level following the concert hall attack in Russia. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal announced the move after a meeting between senior security and defense officials and President Emmanuel Macron. Attal said in a post on X that the decision was taken in light of the Islamic State claiming responsibility for last week's attack on Russia and the threats weighing on France. This comes 4 months before Paris hosts the Olympic Games. In Armenia's capital, Yerevan, 3 men have been charged with terrorism offenses after attempting to storm a police station, detonating hand grenades that injured 2 of the attackers. One of the men stood at the entrance of the police station for more than an hour, threatening to set off another grenade. Security forces rushed to the scene and were able to detain the attacker. No one was wounded in the operation to detain the 3rd gunman. The Interfax news agency reported Sunday that the gunman might belong to the Combat Brotherhood organization, as around 50 members had been detained earlier in the day. The group said it had nothing to do with the incident. Palestinians who fled on ongoing Israeli raid of Gaza's main hospital described mass arrests and forced marches past bodies in interviews on Sunday. The United Nations, meanwhile, said Israel is now blocking its main agency helping Palestinians from sending food aid to the enclave's devastated north. There are also reports indicating that Israel may be willing to allow displaced Palestinians to return to the north of Gaza as part of a ceasefire deal with Hamas. Nasvi Karim has more.
Israeli airstrikes continue to pound Gaza City in the north of the Strip as its military maintains its siege of Al-Shifa hospital. The IDF left the facility in November after saying they had wiped out Hamas there, but have returned over the past week, claiming the Palestinian fighters have regrouped and are conducting attacks from the rooms inside the building. Hamas categorically denies any presence in the hospital, saying Israeli soldiers are freely moving inside while interrogating medical staff. The IDF says 170 fighters have been killed and 480 captured. Hamas says they are all civilians. Israel is also striking areas around two hospitals in Khan Yunis in the south, Al-Amal and Nasser. In Rafah, authorities reported 7 people were killed, including 3 children and 1 woman, after an Israeli airstrike on a house. In central Deir al-Balah, 10 people were reportedly killed in an airstrike, 2 children and 5 women among them. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is worsening despite airdrops. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, while visiting Jordan, repeated his call for Israel to refrain from a planned invasion of Rafah and making matters worse.
I see a growing consensus emerging international community to tell the Israelis that the ceasefire is needed. And I also see a growing consensus. I heard it in the US, I heard it from the European Union, not to mention, of course, the Muslim world, a growing consensus to tell clearly to the Israelis that any ground invasion of Rafah could mean a catastrophic humanitarian disaster.
Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is set to vote on a new draft resolution calling for a ceasefire during the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, which has 2 weeks left. It was put forward by 10 elected members of the Council and has the backing of Russia, China, and 22-nation Arab bloc. However, the US said the resolution, if passed, may hinder ongoing talks seeking a longer ceasefire and the release of hostages held by Hamas. Nasri Karim, TVB News.
In South Korea, senior doctors at dozens of hospitals said they would submit their resignations in support of striking medical interns and residents. Junior doctors have been on strike for 5 weeks over the government's plan to increase medical school admissions. A group of South Korean medical professors today demanded the government withdraw its plan. Kim Chang-soo, head of the medical professors group, said the doctors are prepared to discuss all issues only if the government makes a U-turn. He said the planned resignations and cutback on patient care will go ahead as planned. The senior doctors said they would continue to work even after submitting resignations. The government of President Yoon Suk-yeol is determined to carry on with its plan and has threatened to suspend the licenses of doctors who have walked off their jobs. Welcome back. Lawmakers expressed concern over the upcoming waste charging demonstration scheme to be launched on April 1st. Mimo Sangai reports.
The launch date of the government's waste charging scheme has been changed to August 1st. Authorities decided to launch the waste charging demonstration scheme at 14 designated locations on April 1st. The test locations include shopping malls and public housing estates. During a legislative council session today, some lawmakers questioned the scheme.
The demonstration scheme is rather small in scale, and I don't think that you will have sufficient data in the coming 2 months for you to improve the scheme. We have to examine the problems that may arise, and these are not the things that we can foresee. After the scheme, we will see if we need to review the process and plan for the implementation. We are determined to implement the scheme.
The administration is saying that you're keeping an open mind, but I think you should have a very decisive decision by June as to whether you're really to roll out the scheme or you're going to defer the scheme, because the citizens have to make themselves ready. Don't give them an uncertainty.
One way for residents who wish to save some money on rubbish after the implementation of the waste charging scheme is to reduce their food waste. This private housing estate in Cheongguan has 5 food waste bins, which are subsidized by the Environmental Protection Department. The department also distributed food waste buckets to more than 2,000 residents in the estate. Meanwhile, the residents at this public housing estate only received a few food waste buckets, despite having the same smart food waste bin. Individuals said they must use plastic bags to carry food waste.
成個屋苑10幾座嚟講，得100個回收桶一定係唔夠嘅。
Eastern District Councillor Lam Wing-sing said the Environmental Protection Department expressed concern over the lack of food waste buckets for public housing estate residents. He said those used plastic bags will be dumped into rubbish bins that are placed next to the food waste machine, creating a public health hazard. News 9, TVB News.
Cybercrime remains on the rise in Hong Kong. The police recorded 37 hacking cases last year, leading to some $2.1 million in losses. The force has joined forces with other countries and Interpol to tackle such crimes, arresting 70 individuals and successfully removing 153 malicious servers. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Hong Kong has experienced an upward trajectory of hackers attacking public organizations in recent years. The total number of cybercrime reports over the past year was close to 35,000. That's a 50% increase compared with the year before. Money lost in such attacks last year reached some $5.4 billion, a more than 70% rise over the previous year's figure. This as authorities recorded 37 hacking cases in 2023 that led to the loss of $2.1 million, which is a 200% increase compared to the same period in 2022. Police have strengthened efforts since mid-2023 to combat the rise of cybercrime in the SAR, such as removing 60 malicious servers and more than 35,000 phishing websites between September last year and February this year. The force also joined hands with 54 countries and Interpol between September and November last year to remove more than 900 malicious servers and arrested 70 people. Authorities shared some of their views on why the cyber attack trend is rising in Hong Kong.
Regarding why the figures of the technology crime or the access to computer case we recorded an increase, I think there are a few reasons. First of all, regarding the technology crime, I think it is not a unique problem in Hong Kong. It is a global problem. More criminals switch their criminal activities to online. And it is also because of our daily life is more technology dependent. So we foresee that it is an unavoidable trend.
The police offered several suggestions for residents to protect themselves against cyber attacks, including the use of stronger passwords, regularly updating their software, as well as strengthening cybersecurity training for employees. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The 4-year-old girl in a suspected child abuse case in Kowloon City remains in critical condition tonight. Her mother, who was charged with child abuse, appeared in court today and was granted bail of $100,000. The 38-year-old mother claimed to be a housewife. She was accused of abusing or neglecting her daughter on purpose, leading to her unnecessary injuries. The 4-year-old was found unconscious in a bathtub yesterday, and there were multiple bruises on her body. Her mother appeared at the Kowloon City Magistrates Courts earlier today, with the next hearing set for the 18th of next month. She was granted bail but had to give up her travel documents to authorities. The Hong Kong Anti-Cancer Society said today more young people are now being diagnosed with cancer. The organization said authorities should provide more psychological support to cancer patients and carers. Mimo Singhai reports.
This is the launching ceremony of the Hong Kong Jockey Club Cancer Survivorship Care Project. While the pilot project was first introduced in 2011 by the Hong Kong Anti-Cancer Society, or HKACS, it has been supported by the Jockey Club Charities Trust since 2015. Between September 2015 and the end of last year, the scheme supported 27,503 cancer patients and carers. Some may think cancer is a disease and often targets the elderly. The HKACS said, in fact, among the city's cancer cases in recent years, 48.4% of the patients are aged between 18 and 60. The organization also noted that more women than men are diagnosed with the disease.
In the past 2 years, the number of female newly diagnosed cancer patients is 103, while the number of men is only 100. According to the statistics provided by the Department of Health, the rate of taking up smoking and the rate of taking up drinking is getting higher and higher among women. Many women in Hong Kong is both working and taking care of the family. So the stress of handling both work and family is really putting a lot of pressure on the female.
Under the Cancer Survivorship Care Project, patients and carers can receive support in multiple forms, including the opportunity to join capacity-building programs. To assess the effectiveness of the project, the University of Hong Kong interviewed 174 cancer patients and 131 caregivers between September 2021 and May 2023. The results show the mental well-being of patients and carers has improved. The perceived distress of patients and caregivers was reduced by 21.4% and 20.2% respectively. The mental health of carers improved by 20.7%, while the positive feelings of patients increased by 16.7%.
According to our culture, I do think that, Chinese people, they may not, express their negative emotion in particular to other people. Sometimes they will just suppress it or do not express it. That is also one of the reasons that they show higher stress, also higher anxiety.
The organization also hopes the government can take the lead in providing funding to local NGOs to meet the needs of cancer patients and caregivers. Milms 9, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. Bye for now.